Welcome to question 5 of our mid-unit 4 practice test. So this one's a little bit long, right? There's a lot of work here. I want you to keep in mind when you're preparing for this test and taking the test that this question's going to be weighted more than the multiple choice questions. Each of these multiple choice questions are going to be worth 1 point out of 10. They're each worth 10% of your grade on this test. But when you get here to question 5, this is going to be worth 3 points. It's worth 3 of those multiple choice questions. So you want to take your time. Don't stress out about it, but just take your time and do all the work. You don't want to skip any part of this. You want to try to answer, even if you just guess. You want to try to repeat some of the numbers that are given to you to try to get some kind of partial credit if you're lost and you're not sure what's going on. But this is worth the effort. This one is worth a lot of points. This is probably 30% of the test right here. I'm thinking the table will be worth 1 point. The graph will be worth a point. And answering these 3 questions down here, 2, 3, and 4 thoroughly will be worth another point. So let's get into it. The owner of a small restaurant bought 75 kilograms of rice. Each week, the restaurant uses 4.5 kilograms of rice. Now, when you're working on a word problem, take your time. You want to read the question usually 3 times. The first time, you just read it to get a feel for it. The second time, you read it, gathering information that they have for us. The second time I'm reading this, I'm noticing that they bought 75 kilograms of rice. So that's kind of where we're starting off with. Is this 75 kilograms of rice. And each week that goes by, we're going to use 4.5 kilograms of the rice. And you read it the third time and try to figure out what exactly they're asking. So now here, let's go down here. Function R gives the remaining amount of rice in kilograms as a function of the number of weeks since the restaurant owner bought the rice. All right. So let's start with completing this table. So I'm going to remember we started with 75 kilos, and each week we're using 4.5. So take what you started with. Don't think of this as, if you're intimidated by this question, don't think of it as a math question. Think of it in real life. What's going on if you've got 75 kilos of rice? We're going to start with 75. That's where we're beginning. You always want to start at the beginning. Now, each week, we're taking away 4.5. So after 1 week, you got 75 kilos minus 4.5. After 2 weeks, you're going to subtract 4.5 again. After 3 weeks, you take 4.5 away. 4 weeks, they use another 4.5 kilos. 5 weeks goes by. We use another 4.5 kilos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that 6th week, we're going to subtract 4.5 one more time. So you could literally just do this with your calculator or on your paper using just basic subtraction. Just keep taking away 4.5 over and over again for 6 times to find out how much rice is left. Another way, a quicker way we do this in math is, let's say, hey, you know what? I took away 4.5 kilos 6 times because 6 weeks passed. So this formula for this, after 6 weeks, we've got the 75 we started with, and we're going to subtract 6 times that 4.5. Instead of taking away 4.5 over and over and over again 6 times, I could just multiply 4.5 times 6 and find out exactly how much rice we used in that 6 weeks and subtract it from 75. So what is that? I'm going to need a calculator for this. We said 6 times 4.5. I'm going to double check my math here. 4.5 times 6. If you're not allowed to have a calculator when you take this test or practice test, just remember 2 4.5s is 9. So think of it in groups of 9, right? If 2 is 9, 4 would be 18, 6 would be 27. 4.5 times 6 is 27. So we've used 27 kilos over those 6 weeks. So what we got here is 75 minus 27. I'm going to be lazy and use my calculator. 75, we started with 75 kilos of rice. We're going to take away 27, which was 6 times 4.5. We got 48 kilos left. So there's 48 kilograms of rice left after 6 weeks. All right, so now they're asking about 12 weeks. And you could just go ahead if you wanted to, you really want to, you could say, oh, minus 4.5, minus 4.5, minus 4.5, minus 4.5, and do that for like a total of 12 times, or 6 more times after the 48. Or, what's usually a lot easier and there's less chance to make a mistake, would just say, look, we're starting with a 75, and we're going to subtract 12 times 4.5. So 12 weeks goes by, we used 12 times 4.5 kilograms of rice. Now, I know that 6 times 4.5 was 27. So I'm just going to take 27 more away from 48. 48 minus 27 is 21. It's getting a little bit late. I'm going to make sure I get my math right. 48 minus 27 is 21. We could double check our math. 12 times 4.5. 12 times 4.5 equals 54. And we started with 75. 75 minus 54. 21. We double checked. It all lines up nicely. Now here's the part that people really struggle with, the W. Because even if you're really not bad, if you're not good at algebra at all, you could think about a real life situation and try to take away those 4.5 12 times from 75 to get this 21 here. But what about W? Let's continue to think about it the way we thought about 6 and 12. We started with 75. Now, we're going to take away 4.5 for each week that goes by. So let's think about this. After 6 weeks, we took away 6 4.5s. After 12 weeks, we took away 12 4.5s. So after W weeks, how many 4.5s do you think we're going to take away? W is just a variable. It's like X. If we can come up with this formula, we can plug any number in for W and see how much rice would be left. So if we multiplied 4.5 times 6 after 6 weeks, we multiplied 4.5 times 12 after 12 weeks. Let's multiply 4.5 by W after W weeks. And now we're going to kind of rearrange this as the way we typically see it in algebra. We're going to put our coefficient of 4.5 in front of that variable W. So what we've got here is a little formula. And this is what confuses people. They think that they're supposed to have just one simple answer that's like a number or something. But they just want this little formula. 75 minus 4.5 kilograms of rice each week that goes by. That's what we're looking for right there. And now this W that we just came up with, this formula for 75 minus 4.5 W ties right in with question 2. They're saying use function notation. Use function notation to write a rule. And I've given this test several times. And the number one question that students ask me, what are they talking about? What is a rule? How are we going to use function notation to write this rule? What the heck are they talking about? They want you to take this right here and just set it equal to this function R of W. So what we're looking at is rice. How much rice do we have? Function R how much rice do we have as a function of each week that passes? Well, guess what? It's the 75 we started with minus the 4.5 each week that goes by. And now you got this awesome function, and you can plug anything you want to in for W, and it's going to give you this output. Here's how much rice you're going to have after W weeks. If they plug it in here, we got to plug it in here and do the math. And that's our answer for this question, part 2 of this question. So now 3, they want us to sketch the graph. So once again, we're going to start at the beginning. We're thinking after 0 weeks. What 0 weeks? And I hear a lot of people, when I ask them how much rice you got at 0 weeks, you say, oh, zero. There's zero rice. It's 0 weeks. But no, we're thinking about this restaurant bought 75 kilograms. So that's 0 weeks. They're starting off with 75. So we're going to put that right here on our vertical intercept. Here's where we started, right between 70 and 80. There's the 75 kilos at 0 weeks. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take these 2 points that I created in the table that we made. You could just plot a little point for each week that goes by where you're taking away 4.5. We've got this negative slope of 4.5 per week. Or we could just get these couple dots going on and connect them with a straight line. This is a linear function, so let's just put some more, plot some points here. After 6 weeks, we figured out there was 48 kilograms of rice. It's about right there. And then I see that after 12 weeks, we did the math. After 12 weeks, there was 21 left. So that's probably about right there. And now we can connect the dots. I've got notability, so I can use a nice straight line. If you're doing this on paper, I would recommend a ruler. If you're going to refer to this graph, you want your line to be as straight as possible. So it goes kind of like this, and it's going to keep going until they run out of rice. They get to 0. All right. Now, so we've got number 3 taken care of. There's our sketch. Now, question 4. Here, a lot of people, part 4 of this question, a lot of people get lost here. R of W equals 30. What in the world are they asking us? Solve the equation R of W equals 30. So we know R is the function. It's a function of how much rice we have, the weight of our rice after so many weeks. And they're telling me it's 30. So you know what 30 is? 30 is not how many weeks have gone by. 30 is how much rice we've got, how many kilograms of rice. So we apparently, after so many weeks, we got 30 kilograms of rice left. So first thing I want to do is figure out how many weeks have gone by to put me at 30. And a lot of people are going to just go and refer to the graph. If your graph is absolutely perfect and spot on and you got a straight line and you got all your points plotted well, you could probably figure it out from here. But let's do it algebraically to play it safe, and then we can double check it on the graph. So in math, all the time, when they tell you something like R of W equals 30, you know what they want you to do? All they want you to do is swap out that 30 for R of W. If you want to find out how many weeks have gone by when you got 30 kilograms of rice, just plug it in. Plug in that 30 for R of W. It's that simple. It seems too simple to be true, but that's all we got to do. I'm going to take this 30. I got 30 kilos of rice. And it's equal to my nice little handy-dandy formula that we came up with. We started with 75 kilos. We're taking away 4.5 each week that goes by. Now we're going to try to get W by itself. We want to isolate the variable. Let's do some inverse operations to solve for how many weeks have gone by when we have 30 kilograms of rice left. First thing we need to do, kick this constant 75 over with a 30. We want to combine like terms. Let's get these constants together. We call them constants because there's no variable. 30 is constantly 30, and 75 is constantly 75. Let's get them together. they belong together. They're going to be so much happier. So minus 75 to cancel out that positive 75. Inverse operation, I'm doing the opposite. I had positive 75, so I'm going to take away 75. And I'm going to do the same thing. If you do something to one side, you got to do it to the other. We got to keep everything balanced here. So 30 minus 75. What are we looking at here? We got negative 45. And at first, when you see this, you might be a little bit scared and think, that doesn't make any sense. Why do we have negative 45 kilos of rice? But it's going to all make a lot of sense once we get this negative 4.5 times W by itself over here. Okay, so this is going to work out because we're going to divide both sides by negative 4.5, and we're going to end up with a positive weight. So we got 4.5 times W. That's multiplication. I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication because we call this an inverse operation. Do the opposite. So opposite of multiplication is division. Let's cancel that out. Here comes my inverse operation in blue. I'm going to divide by negative 4.5. And then I'll have W all by itself. It'll just be 1 week. And if I do something to one side, I got to do it to the other. Divide it by negative 4.5. Make sure you notice that's 4.5, not 45. So what you're going to end up with here, negative divided by negative is a positive. That's 10 weeks. So according to my algebra, 10 weeks went by before I got to that 30 kilograms of rice. And then I'll go up in here and double check with my graph. Looks like that lines up really nicely. After 10 weeks, we had 30 kilograms of rice. So show your work, do your algebra, and then let's explain what it means. Don't just leave it like this. Let's see a sentence. Please write me a sentence. How could we explain what's going on? What's the solution to this thing mean? It means, I'm going to throw a text box in here because my handwriting is pretty sloppy. So in my text box, come on. I'm going to do this in blue ink. After 10 weeks, and 10 is the W. After 10 weeks, there were 30 kilograms. And like I said, this is a big money question right here. It's worth lots of points. So take your time, write the sentence, explain to me what's going on. Everything looks great. We double-checked the graph. That's all you got to do. Piece of cake. Rice cake, I guess.